Hello and welcome. Over many years of interviewing movie stars, there are few as open, friendly and as enthusiastic as American actress Goldie Hawn. My first memories of Goldie was her crazy funny appearances in the comedy series Laugh-In, hosted by comedians Rowan and Martin. Goldie graduated from TV sketch comedy into an acclaimed Oscar-winning actress and producer. Her movies have included Cactus Flower, Swing Shift, The First Wives Club and Wildcats. In 1984, she executive produced and starred in Protocol, a comedy romance set in Washington where Goldie grew up. The film, though shot more than 30 years ago, resonates today with some of the very recent global political activity. The story was inspired by her dad, who worked as a professional musician at big political soirees in the capital, and who clearly had some very colourful stories to tell. Shortly after the film was released, I talked to Goldie by phone from her home in Los Angeles, and typically it was a bright and breezy conversation that started with, what else? The weather and her kids.
You're up and about.
Oh, absolutely. It's a magnificent summer day here.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, what's the temperature?
Oh, God, it's about 80 degrees, I suppose.
Oh, my God. Oh, I wanted to come down there so badly. And I couldn't get down because I've changed nannies.
Oh.
And it's a bad time for me to leave the children.
Right, yes.
They're in the middle of school.
Sure, no, I understand. I've got two kids, and I think they're probably roughly the same age as yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
8 and 5 and a half.
Well, mine's 7 and 4.5.
Oh, okay. So we're in the same area.
Right.
I don't want to leave my kids, anyway, but when you've got someone new starting, it's like the worst time to go.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I have to pass this one up.
All right. Well, look, it's good to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, I love it. What do you want to know? Anything. Just
Well,
ask me.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the movie first. I must say that I quite enjoyed it, despite having read some American reviews that were, kind of lukewarm about it.
I didn't read any reviews.
Clever.
I didn't read any reviews, so I would imagine that the film, it's a sweet film. And I never thought that it would be a critic's film,
Right. Where did the original...
People film.
Well, that's exactly it. I'll come on to that in a minute or two, but where did the original idea come from?
Well, the original idea came basically from my head.
Right.
I lived in Washington, D.C. for most of my formative years.
Right.
And my father was a musician who played all the political parties and presidents and presidential inaugurations, and he just knew the social scene of Washington like the back of his hand. And he would come home and give us stories and whatever, and in a funny way reduced the imagery of heads of state and all these important people to just like you and me.
Yes.
And that basically, we're just people who are, some of us are bright, and some of us make mistakes, and some of us are in power, and some of us aren't, So I sort of, through his eyes, kind of got the same philosophy, and decided to make a movie about that. And also, I am the direct descendant to Edward Rutledge, who's the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence. So there must be some political genetic tendencies.
Yes.
And anyway, so with all of it, and with my point of view, I went to Buck Henry to write this picture, and through everything, it took about 7 years to finally come from my brain to the screen.
Ah, so it goes back into the sort of mid-70s somewhere, or late 70s.
Late, let's say 79. So
Yeah.
where are we? Maybe 6 years.
Right. And why Buck Henry?
Because I thought Buck had a substantial knowledge of Washington, and also he was funny. He was able to be satirical and funny about things that are really real.
Ah, now you mentioned one word which I think is possibly the key to, well, certainly the key to my enjoying it, and that's the satire. I mean, you really do satirize and parody the stuffiness, the hypocrisy of the bureaucracy.
Right. Right, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. And also, within it, to be able to understand the responsibility that we have not only to our country, but also to each other. And that lying and manipulation is not always the way to success. And, that was sort of an overall moral tone.
Right. So can I just wind back a little bit? What was having listened to those stories of your father, and of course, like all of us, sort of seen the reports on television and read the newspapers and so on, what was your image of that side of Hollywood?
Wait a minute.
Of Washington.
Isn't that funny? It's probably not far away from Hollywood.
Yes, I know it.
My image of Washington was basically that, I mean, it's a mishmash of people. Some of them are qualified and some of them aren't.
And some of them are liars and some of them are hypocrites.
That's exactly right.
Mm.
There's, and I think in the piece itself, it depicted the good guys and the bad guys. And the overall message, too, of it was that in this country, which is a great country, it's a democracy, and everybody has a voice, which is what, Thomas Jefferson and everybody else promised us. So we just, I just say hail to it, and let's not forget it.
Right. Well, look, I have a strange feeling that I know that the Americans generally have a great national pride,
yeah.
And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that perhaps some of the critics didn't like to see a woman,
yeah.
and B, a comedian having a shot at perhaps the dearer parts of the institution of America or the establishment of America.
Well, I think you might be right. I actually never thought of it that way, but now that I hear it, I think it's probably very true. Also, flag waving, which is really, I mean, this was a very, I think, a patriotic movie, is a little bit simple and simple-minded for some of these guys. I mean, it's a sweet, simple, easy to understand movie. Unfortunately, people just can't seem to get there in their own lives,
Yes.
And so I think it could have stirred up a bit of, I don't know, because I didn't read the reviews, or kind of an opposition,
Mm.
to its, overall simplicity.
How has it fared at the box office?
It's done well. It's done very well. I mean, we were up on the top 5, and of course it's been out for a while, so, new pictures are coming in now. But
Right. And what about, just the making of the film? It looks as though it was actually a lot of fun. I'm sure it was hard work, but it was also a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun to make the film. I had a wonderful relationship with Herbert Ross. He was a great supporter. It was very hard for me to do this. This was a difficult role because it's a character that I basically had to, can I say it? I mean, I had to play a naive person and someone who, hasn't been through the things that I've been through already. So it was a little bit like stepping back in time for me.
Right.
Rather than investigating areas that I have never done, it was peeling off the different layers that I've accumulated over these years and trying to remember what it was like to be, basically, I could say, naive again.
But would you equate that description with the phrase "dumb blonde" again? Because she didn't strike me as being a dumb blonde in the cliched sense.
It was so difficult because it could have very well turned into that, and I tried, along with the director and the writer, to straddle that problem, and because we had to take her in a matter of an hour and 40 minutes, to become this person who was quite aware. I think that Sonny was just a good person, somebody who trusted people, believed in what they said was the truth. And this just made her a good person. rather than a dumb person.
Right. Well, look, I think she was probably just a very, very average person who suddenly was thrust into a world that she wasn't accustomed to.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the mechanizations of that world were just, too much for her to perceive. And of course, when she did finally perceive that they were lying to her, she did do something about it, which is what I think it was great about her. She didn't, she's a fighter. She has the American spirit. She rose above it and did something about it.
Right.
Believe it or not.
And as far as sort of in the range of films, in the body of work that you've done, where you've had a say in it, and I guess that goes back, now, about 12 or 13 years, hasn't it? Or doesn't it, at least?
Well, yeah, it's sort of. I mean, I pretty much was out for hire until about 6 years ago.
6 years
and
ago.
I did my own things and had more control.
Right. But didn't you have some control going back as far as, just some input yourself going back as far as The Duchess and the Dirtwater Fox?
Not too much.
No. Oh, that's interesting.
No, that was a time when I would just read scripts and say yes and pretty well do what was asked of me. Even if I didn't agree, I would always say I didn't agree, or I'd try to have it changed, but it was never ultimately my decision.
So what was the turning point then 6 years ago?
I'd say it was probably Private Benjamin.
Ah, right. I thought you'd say that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What about in that body of work? How do you place Protocol? Is it one of the happier achievements as far as you're concerned?
Yes, I think that it's the kind of movie I wanted to make. It's not a flawless picture, but it's a picture that makes me happy, and I think that it served that purpose in the people that saw the film, for the most part. If they weren't too bitter inside and were able to see the nice side of life, I think that picture is a very uplifting and positive film about human spirit and the better sides of human nature, and also the fact that each and every one of us has power to make changes, whether it's in government or whether it's within our own lives.
Right. Now, you've been compared now as a sort of a film executive and creator and star along the lines of the Clint Eastwoods and Redfords and so on, and also tabbed by somebody, I think, as the Lucille Ball of the 1980s. How do all those sort of comparisons strike you?
Well, I think that if I was in the business of making comparisons, I'd probably say the same thing. I mean, I don't know what I think about it other than that it's my job and it's the way my destiny, or where my destiny has taken me, or my spirit. But I think it's probably correct. I certainly think that Lucille Ball is no one can compare with her. She's in a league all her own. But if anybody feels that I have, anything of what she had, I take it as a great compliment.
Right. Are there any people that you'd like to work with on the screen in particular?
Oh, there are a lot of people. I'd like to work with. I'm sure there's a lot of people that I haven't met yet that I'd like to work with.
What about, I was just thinking, a great teaming, comedy teaming would be yourself and, the guy from 48 Hours?
Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to work with Eddie Murphy. He's one of the few people that makes me laugh.
Yeah. I saw Beverly Hills Cop a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't opened here yet, but I thought it was wonderful.
It's a wonderful picture.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Now, what about future projects for you? There was talk about you doing a film version of Chicago with Liza Minnelli. Is that still a possibility?
I put that one away.
For good?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's. I personally don't think it's solvable.
Uh-huh.
I think it's just the wrong time for that kind of a musical.
Right.
However, what I'm doing next is a football movie, and I play a coach to a primarily black high school football team, and we win.
Of course. That's. Have you started pre-production?
American football team, right?
Have you started production on that yet?
We've started production. We haven't started shooting yet.
Right. Anybody else named in the cast?
No, unfortunately, not.
Gee, there could be a role for Eddie Murphy in
No
there.
male lead in it, per se. I guess I'm holding the ball again.
Yes. And what's the working title on that?
Well, that's a good question. It's called First in Goal, Goal, and it is a working title. We're still looking for another one.
Right. And who's directing it?
Michael Ritchie.
Oh, right. And what about, if I can just talk briefly on the personal side, you've been through 2 marriages now, and you were connected with Kurt Russell. Are you still seeing Kurt, or there was a report?
Yes, we are. We're very happy.
Oh, great. Are you living together?
Yes.
And what about marriage?
Well, I don't know. I think we probably won't get married. But we're pretty much of a family right now, so what's the point?
Because he's got a couple of kids too, hasn't he?
Yes, he has one.
One, that's right.
I
Oh, that's
have
great.
2.
That's great.
We have a house full. We had a house full this weekend.
And what about
We had a good time.
what about working with him together? Because I've enjoyed very much Swing Shift.
Oh, thank you. Well, we'd love to work together again, and I think he feels the same, and we'll probably, if finding the right property, we'll probably do it again.
Oh, that's great.
It'd be great. We like to work together. We're good together.
Okay. And one other question, if I might. You were with Eileen Brennan when she was hit by the car.
Yes.
How is she now?
She's doing very well. She's doing a television series, and she's back on her feet. She looks more beautiful than ever, and she just shows a spirit that pulled her right through it. I mean, it was a miracle, really. But we're still very close, and she's just a great lady, and she's doing wonderfully well.
I'm very pleased because I like her work as well, and it was a terrible shock, of course, out here when we saw the reports of the whole thing, and I remember seeing.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmarish thing to ever have to go through. I'll never forget it, and even to this day, whoever I'm walking with across the street, I hang on to for dear life. They don't get away from me.
Right.
It'll probably be something I'll have for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
Well, it's nice talking to you, and say hi to everybody there for me, and tell them one day I'm going to get down there. I just love it.
Okay, well, you cancelled once before, didn't you?
Yes, and I felt terrible about it. I was on this long 3-week trek, and I was so tired that I knew had I gone to, I wouldn't have gotten the most out of going to Australia because I was completely exhausted, and I was missing my children terribly. So I figured that I would come down the next year. Well, 2 years have since passed, and I just feel terrible. Everyone says, oh, God, you're going to love Australia. In fact, I was in Nepal on a short vacation and met a girl from Australia, and she was just fabulous. And I got her number and everything because I knew I'd be coming down for protocol. So here we are. Things change. I didn't expect to have my nanny leave, but then she has her life, and here I am.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should next movie. You should come down here and then take the children for a holiday up on the Barrier Reef.
I know it. Well, that's because we have to wait until holiday comes for them.
That's right.
But,
Okay.
And Kurt loved Australia, and he was going to come with me, but next time.
Good. All right. Well, take care.
I will.
And all the best with all the future projects.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Cheerio.
What a great lady. After her TV breakthrough in the Laugh in Sketch comedy series, Goldie went on to make more than 30 feature films. And she's still going. Her next film is Family Jewels, in which she's scheduled to re-team with her first Wives Club colleagues Diane Keaton and Bette Midler. However, I understand at the time of recording this, production has been interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic.